Hello everyone, I'm audible. Please do respond in the chat box if I'm audible. Okay, great. Today happens to be the SQL day 2. Let me just share you the screen. Anyone by pinpointing your name and all, just answer for yourself, fine. If someone is asking what is data, what should come to your mind? It is very simple, right? It's a collection of raw facts and figures, which will not be having any sort of meaning. Yes or no? Yes, at least you should respond whether it is yes or no, that's it. And one more thing, I don't know, most of them will watch the class through their mobile phone. I don't suggest you to watch the class through your mobile phone. Instead of that, everyone will be having your laptop or desktop. Please watch the class in that so that you will be getting a better feel. Correct, right? Yep. And what is information? If you ask me, it is very simple. Using the raw facts and figures, that means using the data. If you process that particular data, then it will be called as what? Information. That's it. And the diagrams and all, again, I cannot explain. When it comes to database, already I have told what is the meaning of database. It's a combination of data and information. That's it. Either it may be in the form of processed data, or it may be in the form of raw facts and figures. Correct, right? That's what will be called as what? Database. Next, what is data management? Don't you think it's a process of storing and retrieving the data? Storing is very simple. What is storing? Keeping the data in the precise manner. What is retrieving? Extracting the data. That's all. That's what called as data management. Okay, and I have just explained with the diagram. Please go through that. I think by this time everyone would have written a proper notes of day 1 session. That's what I'm expecting from your side. Next, when it comes to DBMS, what is DBMS? It's very simple, right? Maybe if someone is asking the full form, what you will tell? So it's a database management system. But in detail, if they're asking, it is very simple. DBMS is a software which is used. Why it is used? Please do tell me the answer. Why it is used? Why this particular DBMS is used? Very good. It is used to store or retrieve or modify or delete the data. And I hope everyone are aware of the types of DBMS. Can people tell me how many types are there so that I can just update here? I know in the last session I have just told how many types are there. There are 4 types or 5 types. Very good. There are 4 types of DBMS. Okay. Can you people name that? I don't want the complete name, at least the abbreviation, what I can tell, the short form. Please tell me the first one, which is most oftenly used DBMS. What is that? Very good. See, you are only telling the answer. RDBMS. Okay, great. What about second one? HDBMS. Next one. What is the next one? Very good. NDBMS. Okay, last one. ODBMS. Guys, don't worry. What is RDBMS? How many things will come? Why it will be most oftenly used? Everything I'll speak. Let me start from scratch. Let me teach to the next level. Is that clear? But all the thing I'm expecting from your side is a proper patience. That's it. Right now, let me just save this one. I hope already the notes and what I can tell, the video is being uploaded in our website. You can just watch that video n number of time. Let me just close this. I'll just do one thing. I'll just create another file. Today happens to be the day 2. Okay. And most of them will be expecting me to teach how to create a table, how to play around the table, how to create a column, how to alter the column, how to alter the data. No. If you're expecting me to do such thing, 100% no. 100% I'll teach. But let me go from scratch. Fine. If tomorrow, if someone wants to refer regarding SQL, your notes should be like a Bible. That's what my teaching style is. From scratch, I'll be explaining. Okay. Basically, in the interview or maybe when you join the company, forget about the interview process. If you join the company, what they will tell? Okay, Sandesh, please create the database. And don't you think they'll be telling some data and all? Yes or no? If they're telling me to create the database, 100% they have to give the data. They have to give some document for me. By referring the document only, I'll be creating the database, table, column, data, all those things. Yes or no? Okay. Do you think directly if they're giving the document, directly you will start to, what I can tell, create the database and insert the data? Do you think like that the things will work in reality? 100% no, never. Okay, sir, then what will happen, sir? Okay, let me just take the example. I will not tell the answer. I want you to tell the answer. Let me just open the whiteboard. In this particular whiteboard, let me just clear all these things. Okay. Assume a customer will be there. Fine. Assume a customer will be there. Observe. Assume this happens to be the customer. Guys, and one more thing, now I'm telling, I'm very weak at writing the diagrams and all. Please do adjust the things. Okay. Assume this happens to be one customer. Assume this customer wants to build a house. Fine. A customer wants to build a house or home or whatever it may be. To whom he will approach? 100% he has to approach some engineer. Yes or no? What he will do, this particular customer will approach an engineer or a developer, whatever it may be. I can just tell an engineer, correct, right? Civil engineer. Okay, let me just precise the thing. Civil engineer. Maybe in Kannada, we will call it as what? In Kannada, what it is called as? No, in Kannada, we will not call it as a civil engineer. What we will call? Even though you are engineer, civil engineer, we will call something. What is that? Mestri, correct, right? As I am also from Karnataka, my mother tongue is Kannada. Okay, fine. Right now, don't you think that Mestri or that civil engineer directly he will start to build a house like this? Do you think directly he'll start to build the house? Assume that this happens to be the house. Guys, I'm just writing the rough diagram. That's it. Please don't consider this happens to be the complete house. Fine. No, directly will not start to build the house, right? What he will do? Don't you think he will listen to all your requirement? That means what he will tell? I want a 2 BHK house. I want a duplex house. I want one master bedroom. I want one living area. I want a balcony. I want attached bathroom. I want the Italian kitchen. So many things he will tell, correct, right? By listening to all your things, what he will do? Don't you think he will plan? That means what is the result of that plan? Very good. Don't you think he will prepare something called as blueprint? How many of them will agree with my point? Guys, this is how the things will work in reality, right? Yes or no? Directly, they will not start to build a house. What they will do? They will develop a blueprint. After developing the blueprint, it will be shown for the customer. That means for the customer, they will show customer, see, this is what the blueprint of your house. Even though if there is any modification, easily the customer can tell. Correct, right? That's the reason blueprint is very important. Now tell me, same scenario, guys, same scenario. You can just tell this happens to be the diagram number 1, that is D1. Later, you can just take the screenshot. I don't think it's a very important screenshot. Let me just do one thing. One client will come. Assume that a client or customer, maybe in technical term I have written client or customer. What he will do? He will approach a software company. I can just tell this happens to be a company. Technically, it's a software company. Same thing like how the customer would have told the requirement to the civil engineer in order to construct a house. What they will do, in order to build a database, they'll be telling a huge requirement. By listening to that huge requirement, as a company, as a developer, what is your duty? Now tell me the same answer. Please tell me the same answer. Same answer I'm expecting. What you people should develop? I want the same answer, whatever it is written here. What you should develop? Guys, read this. That means type in the chat box. Very good. Don't you think before creating the database directly, what you people will do? Don't you think you will prepare what? A blueprint first? Before creating this database, 100% you people should write a blueprint. After writing or developing the blueprint, you have to show that blueprint to whom? Client. Then client will check, okay, all the things are in a proper manner or not. If there is any changes, he will tell, correct, right? Technically, this blueprint in IT industry, what they will call, if you ask me, ER diagram or ER model. Technically, it is called as what? ER diagram or ER model. ER model. Is that clear? Please do respond. How many of them are able to understand what is ER diagram or what is ER model? What is that ER? I will tell. But hope that you got the clarity related to what is ER diagram. That means at which point of time they will go for ER diagram. Before developing the database, by listening to the requirement of the client, they will develop the blueprint first before developing the database. Is that clear for everyone? Let me just do one thing. Let me just tell this happens to be the diagram number 2. Just do one thing. Just take down the screenshot of this particular diagram number 1 and diagram number 2. Okay, please be very quick. Okay. Hope that you have taken the screenshot of diagram number 1. Next, please take the screenshot of this diagram number 2. Please be very quick. Okay. If you have taken the screenshot of diagram number 2, let me just do one thing. Let me just share you the notes. That is day 2. Right now, the heading happens to be very simple. ER diagram. ER diagram. I can just tell the heading happens to be ER diagram, or some of them might be calling it as ER model. Some of them might be calling it as ER model. Now tell me, if I utter the word called as ER diagram or ER model, what should come to your mind? Don't you think blueprint should come to your mind? Yes or no? That means if I want to define this particular ER model or ER diagram, when it comes to data, when it comes to database, it is very simple. I can just tell like this. It's a process. It's a process of developing the blueprint of, it's a process of developing the blueprint or plan. I can just tell blueprint or plan, anything is fine. It's a process of developing a blueprint or plan pictorially. I can just tell it's a process of developing the blueprint or plan or pictorially, where it will describe, how the data would be related, to each other. Guys, it's very simple, right? Maybe if you just observe a blueprint of an house or home, don't you think it will also pictorially represent how the kitchen, room, or the master bedroom, all those things will be interrelated to each other? That's how the blueprint called us, right? Same thing here also, it is same. It is a process of developing the blueprint or plan pictorially, where it will describe how the data would be related to each other. Is that clear for everyone? Please do respond. Is that clear for everyone? Okay. Let me just go with the second point. I can just tell like this. ER diagram. Please tell me, ER diagram will be developed or ER diagram will be written before creating the database or after creating the database? Please tell me the answer. ER diagram will be created before. Guys, this point is very important. Before creating the actual database. I hope I have given the clarity for the second point. Next. Sir, what is that, sir? ER. It's very simple. If you just ask me what is that ER? Entity relationship. That's it. I can just tell ER stands for entity relationship. Is that clear for everyone? Entity relationship model or ER model, whatever it may be. Entity relationship diagram or entity relationship model. Is that clear for everyone? Please do respond. I just want the quick response from your side. Is that clear? Okay. Below this, please write the diagram number 1, whatever you have taken the screenshot. Similarly, please write the diagram number 2. Below this, I'll just take a simple example for you people so that you can understand in a very better manner. Observe properly. When it comes to example, assume that a school or a college will approach a software company. To develop the software. Okay, sir, what kind of software, sir? Maybe whatever may be the software where the data will be stored within a database. At that point of time, don't you think in this particular software company, developers will be there? What they will do, they will decide what kind of data has to be stored. That means they will gather the information or the requirement from the client or from the school management. Like, or school management will tell, please store these many data in the database. Okay, sir, what kind of data, sir? First of all, they want the student data to be stored. The complete student data should be stored in that particular database. Second one, they will tell, please store the teacher's data. That's also very important. Next, what they will tell, account data, account or admission or whatever it may be, they have to store the data as well. Next, fourth one, maybe attendance data of it may be for student or it may be for teacher, correct, right? Like this, I can just keep on writing the data. After listening to this requirement from the school management, the software company has to write ER diagram and they have to show it for whom? The school management. Then they can just develop the database and they can insert the data. Is that clear for everyone? Please do respond. Is that clear for everyone? Okay, great. Let me just do one thing. Let me just pick up a single entity, that is student data, and I'll just show you how this particular entity will be designed. Fine. I'll just take a student. I'll just take a student data. Now, under the student data, I'm going to write the rough diagram. That's it. 100% I'm going to explain in detail about this ER diagram. Right now, a rough diagram. That's it. This happens to be diagram number 3. Let me just go back to the whiteboard and this particular whiteboard. Okay. Assume this happens to be the student. This happens to be the student. Now, you people should tell me, student means what kind of data we can collect? Please do respond. Student means what kind of data we can collect? I want a very quick response from your side. Assume that he is a student. First thing, first one. What comes to your mind? Don't you think? Name is very important. Name is very important. Okay, next. After name, what you will correct? ID, that is student ID. Okay, correct. Next, 100% you will just correct his age. Okay, next. You will correct his address. Like this, you can just keep on telling the gender, mobile number, a date of birth, a blood group. Correct, right? Like this, so many data you can collect. But I have just given some simple example. Is that clear for everyone? I hope you're able to understand. Okay, tell me some other data, like some 2 other data, so that I can just complete this. Okay, you'll just collect the gender. That's very important. Okay. Okay, after gender. Okay, please be very quick. Okay, which department? Correct. Department or register number or US number. Like this, you can just collect all the data, right? Sir, is this a ER diagram? 100% yes. But you need to understand how to write a ER diagram. Guys, writing a proper ER diagram is not so easy. You have to understand so many things, and 100% in today's class, I will teach all those things. Is that clear? Just do one thing. Just take down the screenshot of this particular diagram number 3. Please take the screenshot. Okay, hope that you have taken the screenshot. Let me just do one thing. Let me just come back to the screen and I'll just tell like this. I'll just tell like this. I hope some of them might not understand the technical term that I'm using right now, but after 10 minutes, you'll be getting the clarity. I'll just tell ER model. ER model is a process of representing. It's a process of representing the data, into entities and attributes. I know most of them will not understand. Sir, what, sir? ER model is a process of representing the data into entities and attributes. New technical terms that you have introduced. 100% I'll give the clarity. Just listen carefully. Into entities and attributes, and establish the relationship between each other. Okay, sir, what kind of definition we have to tell in the interview if they're asking? You can tell any of the definition. You can tell the first definition, or you can just tell this second definition. That's up to your wish. Is that clear? Guys, please do respond. You can tell this definition, or you can tell this definition. That's up to your wish. Okay, great. Now let me just do one thing. New two technical terms I have introduced. Which are those technical terms? I want you to tell the technical terms. Which are those technical terms that I have introduced here in this particular sentence? Please do respond. Entity is the first technical term. Okay. Second one, attributes is the second technical term. Next, relationship is the one more technical term that I have introduced. Correct, right? Totally, there are 3 new technical terms that I have introduced in the second definition. Right now, I'm going to give the complete clarity about these 3 technical terms, whatever I have introduced. That's the reason what I'll do. I'll just consider the heading happens to be components of ER diagram or ER model. Components of ER diagram or ER model. Okay. Now you people should tell me. Let me just do one thing. Let me just go back here and I'll just tell this happens to be the diagram number 4. Diagram number 4. If I just consider ER diagrams here, if I just consider ER model or ER diagram, from now onwards, I'll be using the technical term that is ER model. Please tell me how many new technical terms that you have learned. Just now you have learned. That means just now you have listened to new 3 technical terms. Which are those? One by one, you should tell me so that I can just list down the things in a very better manner. First one, which is the first one? Please do respond. Which is the first one? Very good. Entity. Okay. What about the second one? Guys, please don't be a lethargic. That means ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸೋಂಬೇರಿಗಳಾಗಬೇಡಿ. Interact ಮಾಡಿ. That means just type in the chat box. Okay, entity. Second one, attributes. Okay. What about the last one? Very good. Relationship. Okay. Now let me just speak about each and every technical term. First one, if I just consider the first one, I can just tell under entity only one category is there. Okay, sir, what is that category? I can just tell weak entity. That's it. Is that clear for everyone? Under entity there is only one category, that is weak entity. Okay, sir, what about attributes, sir? When it comes to attribute, there are 4 types of attributes that you people should master and understand clearly. Which are those 4 types? If you ask me one by one, I'm going to list down. Just observe properly. What is attribute and how many types of attributes? All those types in detail I will explain. First one, when it comes to first one happens to be the key attribute. Okay, let me just copy this. Okay, next, second one happens to be composite attribute. Next, the third one happens to be multi-valued attribute. Next, the last one happens to be derived attribute. Please do respond. How many types of attributes are there? I'm not asking you to tell the name. At least how many types are there? That you respond. As these things will be there in your mind. That's the reason I'm asking the question. If not, I would have simply continued with the class. I don't want that to happen. Okay. 4 types of attributes. If I want to write like this, I can just write KCMD. Sir, what is this KCMD, sir? Yeah, you can just observe here. It says here key, composite, multi-valued, derived. That means KCMD. That's it. Please remember like this, KCMD. Okay. When it comes to relationship also, how many types are there? If you ask me, I can just tell there are 4 types of relationship. One by one, I'm going to list down. Most of them, till now, they're working in the IT industry, but they will not understand how to establish the relationship. They will be getting confused. That's the reason I'll be explaining in detail. Listen properly. First, what kind of relationship might be established? If you ask me, I can just tell one-to-one relationship. Let me just reduce the font size. Okay, let me just change the color. Okay, one-to-one. Next, one-to-many. Next, what about the next one? It's very simple. Ulta, that's it. Many to one. Okay, last one you should guess. Many to many relationship. That means in the interview, if they're asking how many relationship can be established between an object or whatever it may be in database, there are 4 types of relationship: one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-one, many-to-many. Is that clear? Let me take each and every topics and let me explain in detail. Is that clear, guys? Shall I proceed further and shall I take the entity part? Okay. Just do one thing. Please take the screenshot of this particular diagram. That is a chart. Please take the screenshot. Okay. I hope that you have taken the screenshot of this particular chat. That is a chart. Let me just go back to the notes. That is a day 2. Please write the diagram number 4, or technically it is called as a chart. Okay. Yeah. Let me just consider the first one. Please tell me the first entity. Don't you think the first entity happens to be entity itself? Entity. Okay. Now I'll be explaining in detail regarding this entity and how to represent the entity in the ER model or ER diagram. But I just want to know what is your opinion or what is the definition that you are having in your mind when it comes to entity. Please define entity, anyone? Anyone? What is entity? What is that? Please do respond in the chat box. I'll be seeing your answers. What is entity? That's it. Okay. Okay, it's a physical or imagined object. Okay, contents just like objects, real life things. Very good. Okay, next. I'm just seeing all your answers. Okay, contents. Okay, cool. Next. Any other answers? Think and answer. Okay, let me just give some example so that you people can define that entity. I'll just tell student. I can just tell an employee. I can just tell a bike. I can just tell a car. I can just tell a Sandesh. Cool. I can just tell Sandesh. Next, I can just tell COVID. Next, I can just tell Bangalore. I can just consider Mysore. Now tell me what is entity. All these things are example for entity. So it's very simple. You can define in your own words. Fine, whatever comes to my mind at this point of time is what I'll be defining right now. Is that clear? I can just give some 100 definition for that. Don't you think entity might be in the living state or it might be in the non-living state? Will you agree with my point? Entity will be or might be in the living or non-living state. Correct, right? Which might exist or it might not exist. And don't you think it's a real world object? Real world means whatever we will see across the things. Correct, right? Student will be a part of word, employee, bike, car, Sandesh, all those things are real world things. And where the data will be maintained. Correct, right? That means I can just tell like this. It's a living or non-living. It's a living or non-living real world thing. Real world data. It's a living or non-living real world data. Real world things. Real world things. Where the data would be maintained. Where the data would be maintained. Where the data would be maintained. As I'm not asking you to define the same way whatever I have defined. That's up to your wish. Fine. You can just tell it's a state and behavior. That's up to your wish. Fine. But right now, like how I have defined, it's a living or non-living real world things where the data would be maintained. Don't you think student data would be maintained? Employee data would be maintained. A bike data would be maintained. Sandesh data would be maintained. COVID related data would be maintained. Bangalore related data would be maintained. Mysore related data would be maintained. Like this. What is an entity? It's a living or non-living real world things where the data would be maintained. Is that clear? Okay, sir. How to represent this entity in the ER diagram? If you ask me, it's very, very simple. I can just like this. In order to represent how to represent the entity in ER model or ER diagram. We have to use what we have to use. If you are aware, please tell me what we have to use. Think and answer. Very good. Rectangle box. Is that clear? Whenever you are representing an entity in the ER model, please make sure that you'll be using a rectangle box. I'll be highlighting this rectangle box. We have to use what? Rectangle box. So please give us some examples, sir. Maybe in the diagram I can just show here. I can just consider this happens to be the, I know so many chota diagrams will be writing in between the class. You have to maintain a proper notes. I'll just do one thing. I'll just go back to this whiteboard. In this whiteboard, I'll just go to the next slide. This happens to be a diagram number. Can you people tell me a diagram number? I hope it is 4 or 5. 5. Okay, cool. Let me consider student. Already I told you, right? Student is an entity. 100% correct. Next, Sandesh is an entity. 100%. That's also correct. Next, let me just consider a study online. That's also an entity. Let me just consider SQL. That's also an entity. That means whenever you want to represent an entity in the ER diagram, what kind of box you have to use? Just now I have told. Don't get confused. Just now I have told what kind of box. Very good. Rectangle box. That's it. I hope what is rectangle, how the rectangle will look like. If people are aware of that. See here. This is how we have to represent an entity in the ER diagram. Is that clear for everyone? Okay, great. Don't take the screenshot, or else you can just take the screenshot. Please do take the screenshot of this. Sir, why rectangle only? If you just ask me why my name is Sandesh, why? Because my parents would have named me Sandesh. That's the reason. While creating, that means while whatever they have decided, fine. The people who invented the ER diagram, they have decided in order to represent this entity, we have to use the rectangular box. That's it. Apart from that, there is nothing story like that. Is that fine? Just to identify, that's it. Just to distinguish between the data. Okay, great. Let me just do one thing. Let me just go back to the screen. I hope you people will be writing the diagram number 5. Now tell me, what is the first one? That is what is the only category that will come under entity? That means the types. Very good. Weak entity. If someone is asking define weak entity or what is weak entity, your answer should be very simple. An entity which depends upon another entity is called as weak entity. That's it. I can just do like this. An entity which depends upon another entity, is referred as weak entity. Sir, please give us some examples, sir. 100%. Don't worry, I'll be giving some example. Okay, don't worry. I'll be telling how to represent the weak entity. I'll be telling. Don't worry. This is what the first definition when it comes to weak entity. An entity which depends upon another entity is referred as what? Weak entity. In order to represent a weak entity in the ER diagram, see here. In order to represent weak entity in the ER diagram, we have to use rectangle box. But simply don't use the rectangular box. If you are simply using the rectangle box, then it will be considered as what? Entity. But instead of using the rectangle, please use double rectangle. How many of them are clear with that? When it comes to normal entity, please use a single rectangle box. If you want to represent weak entity in the ER model, we have to use what? Double rectangle box. Is that clear? Okay. One more point I will write. I don't know whether people might understand at this point of time, but definitely I'll be giving the clarity for this. Weak entity doesn't contain, or else does not contain any key attributes of its own. In order to give the clarity for this particular sentence, whatever I have mentioned, don't you think I have to explain the attribute and I have to explain the key attribute? Yes or no? That's the reason. For a time being, I'll not be giving the clarity for this line number 3. If I tell also, you will not be in a position to understand. That is the reason. Have some patience. Maybe in another 20 minutes, I'll be taking the attribute and I'll be explaining in detail. Later, you'll understand what is the meaning of the sentence. Let me just take the diagram number 6. I can just tell this happens to be the diagram number 6. Let me just do one thing. Let me just go back to the whiteboard. In this particular whiteboard, what I'll just tell this happens to be the diagram number 6. Okay, here on the will write. How many of them would have taken the loan? Please do respond. How many of them would have taken the loan? It may be site loan, or it may be home loan, or it may be education loan, or whatever it may be. How many of them would have taken the loan? Yeah, what's there in that? Yeah, I have taken so many loans in my life. Okay. Okay. Now just observe here. When it comes to loan, it's an entity. That's the reason I have represented using a single rectangle box. Don't you think under entity, that means there is one entity which is dependent on loan. Okay, sir, what is the entity, sir, which is dependent on loan? Don't you think when it comes to loan, installment, or some of them might be called as EMI, correct, right? Installment or EMI. Don't you think installment is depending on loan? That's the reason I will consider this installment as what? Weak entity. Is that clear for everyone? Please do respond. Guys, this particular loan is an entity. I can just tell loan is entity. When it comes to this installment, weak entity. Sir, why it is weak entity, sir? Why? Because it is depending upon the loan, correct, right? If loan is only not there, installment will not be there, correct, right? That's the reason this loan is normal entity. This installment is weak entity. Okay, please do take the screenshot of this. That is diagram number 6. Okay, if you have taken the screenshot of this diagram number 6, let me just do one thing. Let me just go back to the notes. Okay, and now tell me what is the next topic that I have to teach. The very important topic, the very confusing topic. Which is the next topic? Please be very quick. Which is the next topic? Very good. Attributes. Attributes. Like how I have given the clarity for weak entity. What do you mean by attribute? Don't worry, I'll be defining the attribute. I'll be taking the examples. But let me just ask a few questions for you people. What is an attribute? Anyone? What is an attribute? Okay, let me just give some 30 seconds of time. Meanwhile, I'll be drinking some water. Only water, that's it. Yeah. Please define what is an entity. Sorry, what is an attribute? Okay, some of them are telling properties. Okay, properties of what? The answer is correct. Properties of what? Okay, properties that will describe an entity. Very good. Okay, correct. Okay, I can just tell like this. See here. Okay, let me just give some examples so that you people might define in a very proper way. First one, I can just tell a car is there. Don't you think car is an entity? Will you agree with my point? Car is an entity. If I tell color of car, this is called as attribute. Similarly, simply if I tell car, it is an entity. If I tell price of car, it is an attribute. Simply if I tell car, that is an entity. But if I tell name of car, then it will become attribute. Now tell me what is an entity. Please do respond. Now tell me what is an entity. Okay, one more example I will take. I'll just consider example number 2. And this example number 2, I'll just tell. If I consider a student, it is an entity. It is an entity. If I tell name of student, it will become an attribute. Simply if I tell student, it is an entity. But if I tell age of student, it will become an attribute. That means I hope already some of them are telling the proper answer. Very good. Don't you think I can define like this? It's a process of representing the property or the characteristic of any entity. Will you agree with my point? I can just like this here. It's a process of representing process of representing. It's process of representing a property, representing a property, properties or it's a process of representing properties or characteristics of an entity. How many of them are able to understand? Please do respond. Don't worry, I will define what is a weak entity, difference between weak entity and attribute. Don't worry. Let me go in a step-by-step manner. It's a process of representing, instead of I can just tell it's a process of representing the properties or characteristics of an entity. See here, all these things are properties or characteristics of a car. All these things are properties or characteristics of a student. That's the reason technically I can define what attributes. Okay. Next, one more point I would like to write it here. I can just tell like this. In order to represent, see here, in order to represent attributes, in order to represent the attributes in the ER diagram, in order to represent the attribute in the ER diagram, we have to use what we have to use. Anyone who is aware of that? Please do respond. I can just tell oval, or some of them might be calling it as eclipse. Sorry, not eclipse. See, using because of using Java, in my mind eclipse will come. Okay, it is not eclipse. It is ellipse. Okay, ellipse. Is that fine? Oval, or you can just tell it as ellipse. That's up to your wish. Okay, sir, how it will be represented? Don't worry, I'll just show you that. I'll just consider diagram number 7. I'll just tell diagram number 7. Okay, guys, are you feeling any difficulty? Like, I know I'm not giving time to copy the notes. Maybe because some of them might copy in between the class, some of them might not copy in between the class. I don't want any distraction. If I tell you to copy the notes, what you will do? I think you'll be watching the video or class in your mobile. Automatically, Instagram will be opened. I know that. I don't want that to happen. That's the reason. Guys, whatever the teaching style that I'm having, is that fine for everyone? Please do respond by saying yes or no. Maybe because after the class, you can just update your notes. At least it will be like a revision for you people. Okay, great. Yeah, fine. Taking a screenshot of everything. Yeah, that's what. Why I tell you to take the screenshot, some of them will not attend the complete class. That's the reason. No, as days progressed, this particular theoretical topic won't be there. As days progressed, only query, that's it. Nothing will be there. Is that fine? Only initial couple of days. Why? Because I have to set the foundation, right? Yeah. When it comes to diagram, I'll just do one thing. I'll just go for the whiteboard. And this particular whiteboard, diagram number 7. I can just tell D7. Observe properly. How to represent an entity? Please be very quick. I don't know. You have to guide me. How to represent an entity using what kind of box? Very good. Rectangle. I'll just tell this happens to be the car. Okay, great. This car will be connected or interconnected with so many properties and what I can tell characteristics. Please tell me what are the properties and characteristics that I have mentioned. You have to use oval for that. See here, I have used oval. I can just tell the first one happens to be name. I will tell. Next one happens to be color. I will tell. Okay. Next, I can just consider the last one that happens to be price. This is how we have to represent an attribute. Is that clear? Next, one more example I have taken that happens to be student. When it comes to student, please do tell me. So many attributes are there, right, for students. I can just tell like this. It may be, I will just tell ID will be there. A student will be having the name. Next, a student will be having the age. Next, in order to represent the student entity, we have to use a rectangle. And I can just tell this happens to be the student. Next, I can just establish the relation by using some lines. That's it. Okay. Hope that you people are getting the clarity. Okay, please do take the screenshot of this particular diagram number 7. Please take the screenshot. Okay, hope that you have taken the screenshot. Let me just go back to the notes. Okay, how many types of attributes are there? I don't know, please guide me. I can just tell types of attributes. Types of attributes. How many types are there? I can just tell there are 4 types of attributes. There are 4 types of attributes. First one, I already have written in the diagram, but once again, please do write that. Okay, what is the first one? Please do tell me what is the first one. Key attribute. Very good, key attribute. Second one, later we will see. Fine. I'll just do one thing. I'll just take the first one. That is a key attribute. Okay. Let us just discuss about what is the key attribute, all those stuff. Guys, it's very simple. Key attribute is an attribute which represents the main characteristics of an entity. That's it. Is that fine? Key attribute is an attribute. Now, let me just write that. I can just tell key attribute is an attribute. Key attribute is an attribute which represents the main characteristic of an entity. That's it. Okay, right now I'll just do one thing. I'll just consider an example. Let me just consider an example. Okay, instead of taking the example, I'll just tell diagram number. What's the diagram number? 8. Diagram number 8. Okay, let me just do one thing. Let me just consider the same diagram. I'm going to erase all these things. I don't want all these things. Okay. Okay, assume that this happens to be the diagram number 8, that is D8. Now tell me, among this ID, tell me some other attributes for students. Tell me some other attributes for students. I can just tell gender. Next. Okay, department. Okay, cool. Okay. Now tell me, among these particular attributes, which one you will consider is a main attribute? That means duplicate data will not be there. Think and answer. Guys, if you want to consider the main characteristics of an entity, duplicate should not be there. Duplicates are not allowed. Don't you think if you consider gender, duplicates will be there? If you consider name, assume that Sandesh, one more person might be there. If you consider department, correct, right? There might be multiple department, correct, right? With the same name. Next, there might be multiple age, but don't you think this particular ID won't be changing? That's the reason you have to choose this particular ID as what? Key attribute. I can just tell this happens to be the key attribute. Okay, sir, how to represent the key attribute? How to represent a key attribute? Anyone who is having the knowledge? Please do respond. How to represent a key attribute? Very good. We have to use underscore. That's it. See here? We have to use underscore. Everything is same. We have to use underscore. I can just tell this happens to be the key attribute. I'll just tell key attribute. Okay. Is that clear for everyone? How to identify the key attribute and how to represent the key attribute? Please take the screenshot of this particular diagram number 8. Please take the screenshot. Okay, hope that you have taken the screenshot. Let me just go back to the screen. There is the normal notes. Okay, definition already I have given. Now tell me, same thing, I'll just do copy paste here. In order to represent a key attribute in the ER diagram, what we have to do? Just now I have told, in order to represent key attribute in the ER diagram, we have to use oval or ellipse. I can just, sorry, ellipse. Sorry. We have to use ellipse where text will be underlined. Where text will be underlined. Is that clear? That means using the underscore or underlined, anything is fine. Is that clear? We have to use ellipse where the text will be underlined. Shall I proceed further, guys? And one more point I will write, like how you people would have not understood this point. Weak entity does not contain any key attribute of its own. Fine. What I'll do, I'll just write one more point. Okay, sir. What is the one more point? Key attribute represents primary key. Guys, what is primary key? What is unique key? All those things I will tell. But right now, for time being, please remember, key attributes represents the primary key. Is that clear? Key attribute represents the primary key of an entity. How many of them are able to understand up until this point? Okay, great. Now tell me, what is the second type of attribute? What is the second type of attribute? Now I'm expecting the answer from your side. What is the second type of attribute? Composite or what? Think. Very good. Composite attribute. Let me just take this second one. Let me just paste it here. That's also very simple, guys. To be frank, that's also very simple. I'll just do one thing. I'll just copy this definition. I'll just paste it. Composite attribute is an attribute which represents many other attributes. That means I can just tell like this: it's an attribute which represents the composed data of many other attributes. Is that clear? Composite attribute is an attribute which represents the composed data of many attributes. Sir, we are not understanding, sir. Don't worry, 100% I will be explaining. Please observe. I'll be taking the example that is through one diagram. I'll just take. This happens to be the diagram number 9. I will tell. Let me just go back to the whiteboard. And this whiteboard, I'll just consider diagram number 9. Here only I'll just write diagram number 9. If I consider name, don't you think name is an attribute? Okay. What is composite attribute? Which consists of what? Just now I have told. What is that? Which consists of the composed data of many attribute. There will be many attribute composite together, called as what? Composite attribute. That means if someone is asking your name, don't you think they'll be asking the subdivision? They'll be asking the composite data for that. Sir, what is the composite data, sir? I hope you have encountered in filling the data in many online platform. Please tell me. Simply they'll not ask your name. So many things they will ask. What is that? A first name, it seems. First name. Next. I don't know what is this middle name and all. Okay. Middle name. They'll be asking the middle name. Okay. Next. What is the last one? A last name. That's it. They'll be asking the last name. Now tell me, if you consider first name, middle name, last name, all those things put together called as name, will you agree with my point? All those things will be connected to what? The main attribute. Guys, these three things here, these three things are technically called as what? I can just tell these three things are technically called as composite attribute, which combines to make an attribute. That's it. Okay, let's do one thing. Just take the screenshot of this. Okay, if you have taken the screenshot, let me just go back to the screen where day 2 notes is open. Yeah. Please tell me how to represent this particular composite attribute. Please do respond. In order to represent composite attribute, what we have to do? We have to use ellipse where those ellipse, we have to use ellipse. That is correct. We have to use ellipse. Is the spelling of ellipse is correct? I don't know why, because long back I have seen. Is that correct? Ellipse spelling is correct. Okay, where those ellipses are connected to one main ellipse. See here, in order to represent the composite attribute in a ER model, we have to use ellipses where those ellipses are connected to one main ellipse. That means the main attribute. Okay, next. What is the next one? Please do tell me the answer. What is the next attribute? I can just tell multi-valued attribute. Multi-valued attribute. Okay. Next, let me just represent the last one here itself. Okay, let me just do one thing. Afterwards, I'll take a multi-valued attribute. Can you people tell me what do you mean by multi-valued attribute? Please do respond. Yes, it's very simple. Multi-valued attribute is an attribute. I can just tell like this. Multi-valued attribute is an attribute. Is an attribute which has more than one value, that's it, guys. Multi-valued attribute is an attribute which represents or which has more than one value. That means which can take multiple values. That's it. Sir, can you please give me the example, sir? 100% I'll be giving the example, but how to represent, I'll just tell you. Observe. I'll just tell you how to represent a multi-valued attribute. It's very simple. In order to represent a multi-valued attribute in ER model, we have to use double ellipse. I don't know why that eclipse is going out of my mouth. Yeah, is represented by what? Double ellipse. Is that clear? Okay. If you want a diagram, I can just write on the diagram. It is diagram number 10. I will tell. Okay. Let me just go back to the whiteboard. In this whiteboard here itself, I'll be writing the diagram. I can just consider this happens to be the diagram number 10. Okay. Please do give me the example for that. An attribute which will take multiple data. Assume that if somebody is asking me, fine, like this I will tell. I'm having a multi-valued attribute. What is that multi-valued attribute that I'm having? That's very simple. Skills. That's it. Don't you think? I'm aware of Java, Python, SQL, all those stuff. That means a multi-valued attribute. Correct, right? Next, if someone is asking, can you please tell me one more multi-valued attribute? 100% I can just tell. What is that? Yeah, somebody's already saying the answer. What is that? Don't you think a phone number? Why? Because some of them will be having a multiple phone number. Correct, right? I'm having a separate phone number for office and I'm having a separate phone number for personal work. Correct, right? Like this multi-valued attribute. Please do take the screenshot of this. Please take this screenshot of this. Guys, and one more thing. By the end of this course, by looking at the attendance of yours, that means whether you have attended the class or not, I'll be providing the certification for that. Is that clear? Either you should have attended the class or you should have watched the video in the website. Fine. Maybe some of them will be going for recordings, right? That's the reason I'm saying. If you have watched the complete videos, 100% I'll be getting to know that. Then I'll be providing the certificate for free of cost. Same thing. If you're attending the class from next week onwards, you need not to say yes sir, no sir and all. Don't worry, we will take the attendance. Is that fine? And from next week onwards, I'm restricting the number of students to 90 to 95 per slot. Is that fine? Don't worry. Guys, and one more thing. Maybe this week you might be getting the callings from my team where you have to just tell the preferable time. They'll be giving some 3 slot or 2 slot. Please tell the fixed time so that you will be attending the session in that time, in the weekends itself. Is that fine? Okay, if you miss the class, don't attend the next slot. Watch the recorded video. Why? Because it will be a problem for some other people, right? That's the reason. Is that clear? Don't worry. Don't worry. How I'll take the attendance? That's up to my responsibility. I know how to take the attendance. Next week onwards, I'll be taking. Yeah, certificate is compulsory that I'll be giving. No need to worry about that. Yeah, certificate is also an example for a multi-valued or I can tell attribute. Okay, hope that you have taken the screenshot. Guys, please don't expect me to give the certificate simply like, okay, sir, I have registered for the course. I have not attended any of the course. Will I be getting the certificate? No. At least I'm not expecting you to attend all the classes. at least 60% of the attendance. Plus, I'm not expecting like VTU. No. I'll not be giving any sort of test and all. Why? Because if I give some test, I know easily it would be copied. I don't want that to happen. Don't worry. If your attendance is 60%, I'll be giving that. I'll be giving the certificate. Will that be fine? If there is any emergency, no issues. Do watch the recorded video. I'll be getting to know. Correct, right? Guys, you cannot give the excuses. Sir, I have missed this class. Please give the certificate. No, watch the video. Just show us some 60% of attendance. Then just get the certificate. Correct, right? Guys, don't worry. There will not be any attendance shortage fee and all. Like your college lecturers or in your college. I think I have paid thousands. Fine. I don't know how many amount that I have paid for attendance shortage in my engineering days. Okay, cool. Let me just get back to the SQL stuff. Okay, what is the last one? Can people tell me the last one? What is the last one? I know most of them would have forgotten. What is the last one? Very good. See, some of them are having a very good IQ level. Yeah, great. Derived attribute. The last one happens to what? Derived attribute. Let me just copy this. Let me just paste it here. Okay, sir, what is derived attribute? It's very simple. The name itself says. I can just copy this. I can just paste it here. A derived attribute is an attribute. Derived attribute is an attribute which got derived from other attribute, Is that clear? Sir, give me some examples, sir, so that easily we can understand. 100% I'll give the example. Just observe properly. A derived attribute is an attribute which got derived from other attribute. Okay, sir, then how to represent this? It's very simple. I'll just copy it here. I'll just paste it. Now to represent derived attribute, in your model or your diagram, we have to use what? I can just tell instead of double ellipse, from now onwards, I'll be very conscious. I'll not be using eclipse. Double ellipse, you have to use what? Dotted or dashed. I can just tell dotted or dashed ellipse. Is that fine? Is that clear for everyone? Okay, let me just take the diagram. I can just tell diagram number 11. I know it's all those things are some chota diagrams. Let me just go back to the whiteboard. And this whiteboard here itself, I'll just represent. That is D11. Okay. Assume this happens to be the entity. I hope by this time you people are aware of how to represent an entity. There is an entity called a student. Okay, please do tell me, what is this ID? I just want the response from your side. What is ID? Just now I have told. What is ID? What kind of attribute it is? Key attribute. Very good. See, you're only telling the answer. Okay, great. Next, please tell me, if you consider student, don't you think student will be having so many skill sets? If you want to represent that, don't you think already I have told you have to use a double ellipse? I can just tell skills. Okay. Next, key attribute. I can just tell KA. I will tell that is key attribute. Next, what is this? Multi-valued attribute. MEI I will tell. Next, one more attribute. Just tell me. Please be very quick. Composite attribute. What is that? I can just consider name, and for this name, I might be having two subsections that happens to be like this. I can just tell F_n, that is first name. Next, L_n, last name. Is that clear? I can just call this particular complete data as what? Composite attribute. Last one. Please tell me the last one. Derived attribute, correct, right? I have to just tell derived attribute. Okay, sir, how to represent? A dotted lines, that's it. I have to use the dotted lines. I don't think in Zoom we have that option of using the dotted line. That's the reason I'll try to write like this. I know it's not looking like ellipse or oval, but please try to adjust. Is that fine, guys? I know I have not written properly. It's okay. You can just adjust. See here, it's an attribute which has been derived from other attribute. That means from student, I have derived his age. Correct, right? From student, I have derived his age. That's the reason technically it is called as what? What kind of attribute? Derived attribute. I can just tell this happens to be DA. That is derived attribute. Okay, how many of them are able to understand? In a single example, I have just taken all the attributes. Is that clear? Okay. Please take the screenshot of this. That is, guys, derived attribute means very simple. It's an attribute which got derived from some other attribute. That's it. Is that clear? Okay. I know most of them are getting confused for this. Okay. I'll just tell like this. Yeah. See here. There might be another attribute. There might be another attribute called as date of birth. There might be a normal attribute called as date of birth. And don't you think using this date of birth, I have derived this age by collecting the date of birth of student, by collecting the date of birth attribute. Why? Because date of birth is an attribute. It's a normal attribute, correct, right? By collecting this date of birth attribute, I have derived this particular age. If I just tell my date of birth 100%, don't you think you'll be in a position to tell my age? Correct, right? Sir, what's your date of birth, sir? It's very simple. I can just tell 2402 dash dash dash. If I just give this, don't you think you'll be able to tell my age? Correct, right? That means this particular age attribute is been derived from date of birth attribute. That's the reason it is called as derived attribute. Is that clear? Okay, please take the screenshot of this. Yeah, hope that you have taken the screenshot. Yeah, maybe one person is telling, yeah, very good. So then we can consider this name as an attribute, and this first name and last name is derived. Yeah, of course, yes. Maybe just for example purpose, I have just taken. Are you getting my point? Don't get confused. Just for example sake, I have taken. When it comes to the real world data, I'll just teach you how to choose what kind of attribute it is. Is that clear? I think Rocky Rakesh has been great, man. The question, whatever you have asked, is fine. Correct. Whatever the thinking that you are having in your mind is correct. You can consider this as what? Derived attribute. Guys, don't you think first name is the derived attribute from name? Yes or no? Yeah, correct. Last name is the derived attribute from name. That is also correct. But if you composite, or if you combine this first name and last name together from this particular name, then it is called as what? Composite attribute. Is that clear? Don't get confused. Let's make the thing simple. Okay, cool. Let me just go back to the screen. How many of them are able to understand completely related to attribute? Sir, I got the clarity, sir. What is an attribute, and how many types of attributes are there, and how to represent all those 4 types of attributes? Is that clear? Okay. Don't worry. Difference between key attribute, composite attribute, difference between what I can tell, weak entity attribute, everything I will give. Don't worry. I'll be giving some other example. Guys, this is just what I can tell, a teaser. Is that fine? When I take the data and when I teach you how to develop or how to write the ER diagram, at that point of time, easily understand. Is that fine, Shweta? Don't worry, 100% I'll take some examples. Okay, just do one thing. Just close your eyes for 5 seconds. Don't think anything. Please don't think. Please don't think anything for 5 to 10 seconds. Just close your eyes. After opening your eyes, just have a look at the points, whatever I have written for all these things. I'll be giving 2 minutes of time. Still some more topics will be taught in this class. Don't get exited from the session. All I'm telling. Close your eyes for 10 seconds. Don't think anything. Open your eyes. Just observe these points. That means just keep on reading. It would be better if you just speak like key attribute is an attribute. Just tell like that. I'll be giving 1 or 2 minutes of time. Will that be fine? Okay, great. Okay. Is that done by revising or going through the points, whatever I have written? Okay, great. Let me just come back and let me just consider the last technical term that I have used in the ER diagram. What is the last technical term? It's a very complicated term. What is that? Yeah, in real world also it is very complicated. What is that? Yeah, relationship. Yeah, cool. If you just ask me what is relationship when it comes to ER diagram or the technical stuff when it comes to SQL, it's very simple. It's a process. It's a process of describing. It's a process of describing the relation between entities. It's a process of describing the relation between entities. Sir, can you just give us the example, sir? 100% I'll give the example. But before that, how to represent that is very important. Observe here. In order to represent a relationship, in order to represent relationship in ER model, we have to use what we have to use. Anyone who is aware of that? What we have to use? It will start with R. What is that? Rhombus. Is that fine? In order to represent the relationship in ER model, we have to use what? Rhombus. Sir, how this rhombus will be there, sir? Don't worry, I'll just show you that. Why you worry about that? Okay. I can just consider like this. Types of relationship. Okay, before this, I would like to write the diagram. Okay, can you people tell me diagram number 12? Okay, diagram number 12. Types of relationship. Okay, how many types of relationship is there? Don't worry, I'll be writing the diagram. Don't worry about that. How many types are there? There are 4 types of relationship. Okay. One by one we'll discuss. Afterwards, we can just conclude this session. As now I'm telling, till that means till the date, many of the developers are not aware of what is this relationship, how to establish a one-to-one relationship between the entities, or how to establish many-to-many, at which instance we have to go for many-to-one. They're not aware of that. Please listen carefully. No one I'm telling. Diagram number 12 I'll be writing. I'll just do one thing. I'll just come back here, whiteboard. Okay. Diagram number 12. I'll just tell D12. I'll tell. That is diagram number 12. Okay. There is an entity. Fine. Okay, sir. What is the entity, sir? I'll just tell Sandesh. Sandesh. Fine. I have just told Sandesh as one entity. Next, I can just consider a student as another entity. Fine. Between these two entities, I have to establish a relation. Okay, sir. What kind of relation, sir? You only tell me. Between Sandesh and student, there will be one entity that I can establish. Okay, sir. What kind of entity, sir? I will establish like this. Observe. I hope it looks like a rhombus. Don't you think? I can just tell like this. Teach or teachers or whatever it may be. Teach is an entity, or SQL I can take. Why I have not taken SQL? I'll not only be teaching SQL. I'll be teaching Python, Java. That's the reason I have just told teach. Teach is the entity where it will relate Sandesh and student. Yes or no? Please do tell me the answer. Okay. Next, I can just consider this happens to be a boy. One more example I'm just taking. This happens to be a girl. Fine. Assume these two are entities. These two are entities. I'm going to write one entity which establish the relation between two entities. What are those two things? Please tell me. A boy and a girl. I can write so many things. It may be friend, it may be sibling, it may be brother, it may be sister, it may be whatever it may be. But right now I'm going to take a love. Is that fine? Simply I have just taken. Please don't take me in the wrong manner. You can just consider any of the relationship. That means you can describe the relationship in any manner according to the requirement. Correct, right? I hope that you have understood what is relationship. Now, without wasting the time, let me just move on to the first type, and let me just explain in detail related to the first one. Okay, what is the first one, guys? Don't take the screenshot. Maybe after writing all the diagrams, you can just take the screenshot. Don't worry. I'll just come back to the screen. Please tell me, what is the first type? Let's please be very quick. First type. One-to-one relationship. One-to-one relationship. Let me just copy this. Let me just paste it here. Initially, I'll be writing the diagram. Sorry, initially I'll be writing the definition. Or else, let me just do one thing. Afterwards, I'll be writing the definition. I'll just come back to whiteboard. I'll just tell diagram number 13. I'll just consider this happens to be the diagram number 13. Yep. All the 4 diagrams here only I will be writing. Just observe and tell me the answer. Assume this happens to be the student. This happens to be the student. And this happens to be study online platform. Study online website. Study online website. Fine. I hope people would have gone through our website. That is www.studyonlinetech.com. Or there is a mobile application also you can download, and you can just start watching the video. Now tell me, a single student can have how many accounts? Please do tell me. If using a phone number, using a single phone number or your mail ID, how many accounts you can create? Please do tell me. One student, I can just tell like this. See here, one student can create how many accounts? Very good. Only one account. Are you getting my point? One student can create only one account. That means what kind of relationship I have to establish between a student and a study online website? Don't you think one-to-one relationship? Hope that you're getting the clarity. That means I can just tell like this. Login or enroll. One student can log in. to only one account in Study Online? Okay, sir, we are not getting the clarity, sir. Give us some example. Oh, 100% I'll give what is there in that. Let me just take, I can just consider a male. Fine. Now think and answer. You should think and answer. One male. Fine. Assume here I have written one more entity. This entity happens to be female. One male can get married to how many female? I know it depends on your capacity and density, but in general, no, I'm just speaking in general. Okay, great. Don't you think one male can get married to another male? I can just tell married. That means, don't you think I'm establishing one-to-one relationship between male and female using the relation called as married. I'm establishing student and Study Online website one-to-one relationship using the login relationship. How many of them are able to correlate? Please do respond. Guys, are you able to correlate? Okay. Next. Here only I'll just try to write the second one, that is D14. Later I'll be giving the notes. Don't worry. Guys, if you want me to tell the definition, it's very simple. One-to-one relationship is a relationship where only one instance of an entity is associated with the relationship. That's it. Is that clear? Only one instance. See here, only one instance of an entity is associated with the relationship. Don't worry, definition wise, it's a very easiest part. Let me just consider the second one. What is the second one, guys? Please do tell me the answer. One-to-many relationship, yes or no? One-to-many relationship. Okay. I'll just consider a very better example. Assume that you are attending the SQL class. Only one SQL class is going on. Right now, only one SQL class is going on. Now tell me, one SQL class consists of, don't you think, only one student or many student? Please tell me, one student or many student? I want the answer from your side. Very good. Many students. That means between the SQL class and student entity, I can establish a relationship like one-to-many. Is that fine? Is that clear for everyone? Please do respond. Okay. One more example I will take. I can just tell a developer. Fine. Developer. Assume that there is one developer. Don't you think this developer will be having one-to-many relationship with what? Clients? Yes or no? Guys, please tell me. You might be working on multiple projects, right? I can just tell developer has one-to-many relationship with clients. Sir, why, sir? Why? Because you might be assigned to multiple projects where multiple clients will be there. At that point of time, you have to establish what? One-to-many relationship. How many of them are able to understand, guys? Please do respond. How many of them are able to understand the diagram, whatever I have written? Is that clear? Okay. If you just ask me the definition, it might look difficult, but if I just write 100% you understand, listen carefully. One-to-many relationship is the process where only one instance of an entity on the left and more than one instance of the entity on the right is associated with the relationship, then it is called as what? One-to-many. Sir, what's a lengthy definition you have told, but we didn't get the clarity. Don't worry, I'll just type, then you'll understand. Is that clear? Just do one thing, guys. Please take the screenshot of this. I want everyone to take the screenshot. Okay. If you have taken the screenshot of this, let me just go back to the diagram. And this diagram, I hope diagram number 12 you have taken. I'll just tell diagram number 13. Next, this happens to be one-to-many relationship. Copy this, paste it here. Let me just copy this one. I would like to paste it here. Last 10 minutes, that's it. Just give me 10 minutes. I would like to conclude the class. Diagram number 14. Definitions are very important. Listen properly. Only single definition, that's it. When it comes to one-to-one relationship, what I can tell, I can just tell it's a process of, or else I can just tell like this. It's or else I can just even more concise way. When only one instance of an entity is associated, only one instance of an entity is associated with another entity, then it is referred as one-to-one relationship. Okay, sir, what about this one, sir? It is very simple. See here, let me just copy this one. Let me just paste it here. Instead of this, I would like to copy this. Let me just paste it here. Second definition, slight alteration will be there. That's it. Here, I can just tell when only one instance of an entity is associated. Before associated, what I have to do? See here, when only one instance of an entity on the left hand side, on the left is associated with many entity, on the right side, or whatever it may be. I have just told right. Okay, I'll just give right. On the left side is associated with many entity on the right side, then it is referred as one-to-many relationship. How many of them are able to understand the definition? Simple definition over I have given. Guys, please tell me, are you in a position to understand the simple definition? Yes or no? No need to mug up. No one I'm telling, no need to mug up. If you attend my another session, 100% the usage of words in the definition won't be same. Why? Because I don't have any predefined notes. I'm not sitting in front of any notes, or I'm not seeing any laptop or mobile phone. Whatever there in my mind is what coming. Okay. Okay, cool. Next, what I'll do, I'll just copy this. I'll just paste it here. 3. Here, what I'll tell many to 1. Now tell me, where exactly I have to do the alteration? When only, instead of one instance, what I have to tell? Please tell me what I have to tell here. Very good. That's here. You're only telling the answer. When many entity on the left hand side or left side is associated with only one instance of an entity on the right side, then it is referred as what? Many-to-one relationship. Are you in a position to understand? Please do tell me the answer. Are you in a position to understand the changes whatever I have done? Sorry. Here I have to remove this. When many entity, see here, when many entity on the left hand side is associated with only one entity on the right side, then it is called as what? Many-to-one relationship. That's it. Now let me just do one thing. Let me just copy this. Sir, what about diagram of 15? Sir, you have not written. Don't worry, I'll be writing. What is there in that? Next, last one, many-to-many relationship. What I have to do? That's it here. Instead of this one, I have to just replace this with many. That's it. See here. When many entity on the left side is associated with many entity on the right side, then it is referred as what? Many-to-many relationship. That's it. Let me just copy this. Let me just paste it here. Instead of diagram number 15, I'll just tell 16. This is not 3, this is 4. Is that clear for everyone? If I write the diagram, are you in a position to understand? I just want a quick response from your side, guys. If I directly write the diagram, will you understand? Why? Because diagram copy paste, that's it, sorry, a definition copy paste. Why? Because it's very easy to understand. Let me just do one thing. Let me just go back to the whiteboard. And this whiteboard, what I'll do, diagram number 15 and 16, right? I'll just tell D15 and D16. Afterwards, I'll just conclude the session. D15 and 16. You should guide me. You should guide me. Minute one. Assume that I have just taken a student. Fine, I have just taken student. Assume that you are a student. Don't you think many students, as I can establish any kind of what I can tell relation, that's up to our requirement, that's it. Assume that many students belongs to one department. Yes or no? How many of them will agree with my point? Many students will be, I can just tell many students belongs to one department. Let me just consider this happens to be the department. Let me just increase the font size of this. Yeah, many student will be belonging to one department. Yeah, many students will belongs to one SQL class. Correct, right? Okay. Is that fine if I give only one example? Please do tell me the answer. And one more thing, who knows in reality? Many boys. I can just tell so many boys, not many, so many boys will be having crush. I can just tell this happens to be crush. I will just tell many boys will be having crush on one girl. Will you agree with my point? Correct, right? Okay, great. Guys, the example, whatever I'll be giving, it will be limited to class itself. Fine, please don't take something and all. Just to make you understand the concept in a very better manner, I might be giving the example, that's it. Okay, next, the last one. Please tell me the last one. Assume that you are a student of study online, fine. Assume that you are a student of study online, or many students are there. I can just tell students. Okay, many students are there, correct, right? I can just tell many students. Assume that they just want to enroll for a course. They just want to enroll for a course. Do you think, is there any restriction for enrolling a course? Assume that you have taken, or what I can tell, SQL. Is there any restriction that you should not take Python? No, right? That means I can just consider courses. I can just consider courses that are there in study online. 100%. What you will do? Many students might enroll to many courses. Correct, right? That's the reason what I'll do. I'll just tell this happens to be enroll to many courses. Next, like this, I can just keep on giving the example. Can you people tell me the last example so that we can just conclude the session? Last example for many to many. Please tell me the answer. Last example. Please be very quick in telling the answer. A simple example where everyone will understand in a very better manner. Please be very quick. Think. It should be very simple to understand. I'll just consider a company. I'll just consider jobs. Many company will have or has or whatever it may be, because I'm very weak in English, guys. Okay, just observe here. many company will have many job openings. Will you agree with my point? So many companies will be having so many job openings. How many of them will agree with my point? I can just tell companies. Many companies will have many job openings. Many people would have taken so many COVID vaccination. Correct, right? How many of them were able to understand the simple example whatever I have given? Okay, cool. Just do one thing. Just take the screenshot of this. Take the screenshot. Okay, fine, no issues. Just take the screenshot of this. Okay, hope that I have taken the screenshot. Let me just go back to the notes. Now tell me, are you in a position to understand this particular many-to-one relationship? Let me just copy this. Let me just paste it here. The last one that happens to be a many-to-many relationship. Let me just paste it here. Guys, don't worry. When it comes to ER diagram, when it comes to writing the query, establishing the relationship between the queries, all those things in detail I will teach. But a basic foundation should be very strong. Is that clear? Guys, anybody in this class directly have you learned engineering? No, right? First standard, second standard, third standard. Next, engineering. Correct, right? Step by step, I have to teach. There is no hurry burry. Okay, just give me a minute. I'll just send you the attendance link. Please do provide your attendance. Just give me 1 minute. Where is that? Give me a minute. I'm just searching for the attendance link. Yep. Where is that? No, don't worry. Technically, I'll not teach anything right now. Maybe let me just send you the attendance link. I'm not getting that. Can someone send the attendance link in the chat? Maybe if you have same attendance link, whatever I have shared for the HTML class. Do you have the attendance link? Just a minute. I'll just send you. Just give me a minute. It's there in my mail. And I'll be sending you the notes link of SQL as well. Give me 1 minute. Yeah, I got it. First, I'll be sending the notes link. Wait a minute. Yeah, are you people able to see the attendance link, whatever I have sent? Just check it out. Are you able to see the attendance link? Just know I have sent. Okay. Please provide your attendance there. Okay, still I'm not able to see many people attendance. Guys, now I'm telling in future in the study online, maybe in tomorrow or day after tomorrow, I'll just do one thing. I'll create a SQL course in study online website as well as mobile application, where you'll be getting the access. Those who have attended at least couple of classes will be able to get the access. Not for everyone I'll give the access. You have to attend the live class. Okay, for that attendance is very important. Please do provide your attendance.